Hey everybody, who's your Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm going to be talking about episode 3 of The Legend of Korra called The Revelation. Korra is back. It is so exciting. There's so much to talk about, so let's dive right into it. Now, of course, the big thing here is that we find out that Amon apparently has the ability to permanently remove bending from people, something we only thought the Avatar could do. Now, obviously, we're all wondering how he's doing this. The thing I want to bring up is why he's doing what he's doing with the criminals. Okay, now Amon is a guy who's trying to foster a revolution. And if you look at history, when you do this sort of thing, one of the first things you want to do is, of course, to get the people at your side. And one of the things that you need that really works well for doing that sort of thing is finding a scapegoat, giving people someone they can blame. And obviously, benders are filling that role here. And then you have to take it to the next step. You have to show people that they can strike back against those who they think are oppressing them. And now here Amon shows he does have this tremendous, incredible, world-changing power. And he chooses to exercise it on some criminals. And, of course, nobody's really going to object to this. I mean, it's spelled out that except for Bolin, who was just there because he was dumb, these are people who were longtime criminals, career criminals, who had probably spent many, many years hurting and extorting people. So, of course, nobody's really going to object when he takes away their powers. I mean, him doing this is almost certainly a net gain of good for the universe. But here's the thing. Let's dial it back a little bit to when Aang took away Sozin's powers. Aang did that because he really did have no other choice. Sozin simply could not be reasoned with. There was, short of killing him, no other way to stop Sozin. Here, Amon's taking away the powers of these people just because he's decided, I don't like you. I don't think you deserve to have that power. And while these people were certainly misusing that power, remember, bending is both something that is genetic and spiritual. By doing whatever it is he does, Amon has violated these guys in a spiritual sense. He's, not to get too heavy about it, he's taken away a little piece of their soul. And again, while these people probably didn't deserve to have their power, is it really right to do something like that to them? To take away something that is part of their very essence, their nature as human beings? Okay, again, I'm just throwing that out there for your consideration. So anyway, let's move on to talk about a little bit more about something that I brought up in one of my previous videos about the whole class issue that's going on in Republic City. And on the one side we have the normal people, and on the other side we have the benders. And the normal people in general seem to feel that the benders are oppressing them, and they feel that way. And it's not and they do have some legitimate reasons to feel that way. And we see this very much paralleled in the conversation that happens between MaKo and Korra. Now let's look at Korra. Korra's known she was the Avatar since she was about 4 years old. She spent her whole life basically being cared for by some of the smartest, most talented people in the world. She's never lacked for anything in her life. She's never gone hungry. She's never been cold. The only thing in her life that she's really ever had to struggle for is her bending abilities. Meanwhile, MaKo, ever since he's 8 years old, that's all he's done is struggle. He's struggled every day to keep a roof over his head for him and his brother, and to have food on the table. And it's a struggle that's still ongoing. MaKo's had to struggle and scramble and work and bust his butt for everything he has in life. And for all his work, he still doesn't have a huge amount to show for it. So here's the thing, though. Now this is the thing. Just because Korra does come from this privileged background doesn't mean that she's a bad person. Look at the guy in the park. Just because she's a bender, the guy is automatically willing to call Korra an oppressor. He doesn't know anything about her personally. He is simply judging her as an entire worth as a person based on one aspect of her. And this is an unfortunate problem that we see all over our society. People do it with race, they do it with religion, and particularly these days, they do it with money. And really, if you stop and think about it, that's as ridiculous as all those other things. How much money you have in your bank account is no reflection upon you, who you are as a person. It is no reflection upon your morality. And believe me, I've had these arguments with people who's like, you know what, I grew up poor, I had rich people look down on me all my life. Okay, I can sympathize with you. But again, if that makes you go, just because someone is rich, that means that they're a bad person, I'm sorry. No, you do not have the moral high ground. We are all should be judged by the content of our characters, not by the content of our bank account. Anywhere in the world, you will find good people who are rich, bad people who are poor, and bad people who are rich, good people who are poor, bad people who are middle class, and good people who are middle class. It is all about the content of our characters, not about how much money we make. So anyway, let's move on. Yeah, one thing that I think is interesting, and I think it's coming more into focus, is in the previous series, the Avatar's role in finding balance was to stop any one of the four elements: the Fire Nation for Aang, the Earth Kingdom for Avatar Kyoshi, from just getting too powerful, from dominating the others. Here, the balance is to be found between the Benders and the non-Benders, because they're both people who inhabit the world, and each is equally a part of it. And this is, from what I understand, is something new, something we really haven't seen before in the Avatar universe. And this makes it a very interesting and unique challenge for Korra, and I'm really interested to see how she's going to deal with it. Because as I've said earlier, Korra's main way of dealing with things, as evidenced by how she busted into that gang's hideout, is to just go forward and bulldoze everything. Korra, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, Korra's a tank. That's her approach to life. Straight on. Hit it hard, hit them fast. And the problems that she's dealing here with class and fear and people being manipulated politically and socially, that's not something she can really solve by going out and hitting people in the face. Now, granted, you can shake people down for information, but ultimately, you have to win. This is a battle she's going to have to win by winning hearts and minds, not by going around and punching people in the face. But anyway, enough about the overall plot. Let's talk a little bit more about the characters, and let's talk about MaKo. We saw some really interesting things with him going on this week. One is I'm really interested in is that we saw that apparently lightning bending can be used down at the power plant. Now MaKo is obviously a very talented firebender, but as I remember, being able to do this was an extraordinarily rare skill. I mean, we only saw like what Zuko, Azula, and Iroh were the only ones we ever saw who had this ability. Here we see MaKo doing it, and then there were like what 4 or 5 other guys hanging around. So has this ability become more commonly used? I mean, what's going on here? It's formerly a big deal, and is it now a common thing? I don't know. It's something I was wondering about. Okay, so let me see what else. Got my notes here as always. Oh yes, one thing that I absolutely have to give a huge props to was the chase scene towards the very end with the motorcycles and Naga and everything that was going on. Oh guys, that was absolutely incredible. I was absolutely blown away by the fact that that is television animation. Now, I mean, we've seen a lot of really flashy, well animated stuff coming out of Japan. But to see something like that on American TV, it just blows my mind, and it really says so much about how far animation has come in the United States in the last 20-some years. I mean, right there was something that, in all likelihood, was heavily influenced by the classic anime film Akira, but that was a feature film. Now, granted, this Akira came out in like 1987, and this is 2012, but still, to be on par in terms of animation and action for something as legendary as that it's an incredible achievement. I have to give the show and the animators so much credit for that. And of course, let's go back to MaKo for a second. We find out that he's done some criminal stuff in the background in the past, and he did point it out to Korra. You've never had to be in that situation where you would do things that you morally would not want to just in order to survive. And it's true for him, and it's undoubtedly true for a lot of other people in Republic City. A lot of them are undoubtedly making choices they might not normally make just to survive. And I'm not talking about just being criminals. I'm talking about signing up with the equalist movement, a movement that is very much advocating a violent revolution and turning on people not by things that they have done, but just by them having a power that they were born with. Nobody asks to be a bender. It's just something they're born with. And according to the Equus, according to Amon, it is perfectly okay to go out and hunt these people, to hurt them. And, I don't think I need to point out what movement in 20th century history started out this way and ended up with a lot of people being thrown into camps and gassed. So yeah. And the thing there is, it all starts slowly. It all starts innocuously. It all starts with targeting people that your average person would think deserves to suffer, and suffer harshly. So anyway, oh yeah, one more thing to say about MaKo. Apparently he's a Proto Batman. I mean, did you listen to the origin where he talks like, yeah, my parents were killed by a mugger right in front of me when I was 8 years old? Okay, dude, I need to know, were you leaving the Mask of the Mask of Zorro movie when this happened? Because that is totally Bruce Wayne's origin. And in a funny way, MaKo is like Batman. It's just if his parents weren't rich and he had a crazy goofy little brother, I can entirely see Bruce Wayne. Yeah, imagine if Bruce Wayne had Jimmy Olsen as his little brother. And wasn't rich. I could totally see them turning into MaKo and Bolin. So it's nice to know that the influence of American comics is also felt in addition to Japanese animation and all that other fun stuff in the show. Let me see. Okay, folks. Well, amazingly enough, I have finished everything I wanted to talk to. Oh yeah, actually no, I have one more thing to talk about, and that's Bolin. He felt more like a plot device than an actual character in this episode. Honestly, I was a little disappointed in him here. It just seemed like he was there to be Sokka. Everything he did was something I could more or less see Sokka doing, and him having Pabu is just basically Momo hanging out with Sokka again. So I was a little disappointed there. I really thought they could have done more with Bolin as a character. But again, this wasn't really his story. Oh yeah, there are a few other things I want to talk about. First of all, who in the world was the voice of that the bouncer, the doorman at the club? I know I've heard him in so much stuff, and I didn't think to check the credits, but he's a voice I recognize from a lot of stuff. And one other thing, when MaKo and Bolin are looking at that map to figure out where the meetings happen, did you notice the little map in the background at the bus station or whatever? Almost an exact copy of a map of Manhattan. And speaking of those posters and things, did you notice the way it was designed to look a lot like a World War II propaganda poster? Particularly if you've ever seen ones that the Imperial Japanese had. The way his Amon's hand was up, that thing, it looked so much like a Himaru, or better known in English as the rising sun symbol. So again, a very nice little symbol, very nice little drawing on history to drive home the point about how the Equalists are most definitely not good guys. Anyway, I'm almost out of time. Thanks for watching. Please comment, rate, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.